It is no secret that in terms of the PS4, God of War is one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game on the platform. And it really does kind of stand, at least in my opinion, the generation-defining game of the PS4, similar to how The Last of Us was kind of that same ilk, where it was that generation's main defining game of the PS3. However, there's been some interesting new reports that have come out, even amongst the high awards that's gotten, the praise it's gotten for God of War 2018. The main protagonist of the game, our fellow beloved Kratos, was almost not in God of War 2018. What is going on, guys? It is your boy TKD. I want you to hear back again with a video. It's to go over all of the new details that we got involving the development of how Kratos was almost not in God of War 2018 for the PS4. And if you end up enjoying this video, make sure to also leave a like on the video. It really does help and support the channel. Really appreciate it here from PlayStation Source to you. Now, this whole story came about via a article from Game Lab in Barcelona, where Barlog, of course, Cory Barlog, the creative director of God of War 2018 and I believe God of War 2 as well, he's been at Santa Monica for a long time. If you have followed anything involving God of War 2018 for the PS4, you very much well know Cory Barlog. And so he was being interviewed by Game Lab in Barcelona and had a few interesting tidbits to talk about involving Kratos. And so he says that, quote, in early discussion, people were saying we had to get rid of Kratos. It was like, he's annoying, he's done. And they also went along and said that in the development studio at Santa Monica, they were saying that, quote, Kratos is not God of War. Greek mythology is God of War. And it's really interesting to see that even at the studio, a lot of people were not a fan of Kratos and what he was in God of War 1, 2, 3, and Ascension, and all the other PSP games as well in the God of War series, that they also found him annoying. And I know, that's been a very much a regular type of, opinion you could say about Kratos in the gaming landscape, where a lot of people, just see him as this raging, angry, half god, half man type of person that, outlashes and stuff like that, and just full of rage, and he really doesn't have a lot of depth to him. And so it's really interesting to see that, the studio was also in that type of opinion as well. But Cory Barlog definitely pushed to have him in the game, mainly because he wanted to give him some sort of humanization type of redemption and have him be more humanized in this God of War 2018 game. He says, quote, they really did not like the character. They wanted a new character. It took a lot of convincing to make them think it was a good idea. And the fact that Barlog even brought up that they were thinking about, or there were talks about having a new protagonist in God of War 2018, that would have drastically changed the entire scope and kind of the entire perception of the game. Because at that point, if you have a brand new protagonist and you're not in Greek mythology and you're in Norse mythology, then why even have the title of God of War? Like, they would have surely had to change the title to make it something and make it separate from God of War. You know what I'm saying? That would have just drastically really did change. That would have been crazy to think. Like, what would have even been called? Like, if you guys have any ideas about, what they would have called the game besides God of War if they went with a new protagonist, leave me your thoughts in the comments below. But I do like this whole discussion as well that is being introduced by Barlog, where he talks about that, they had a big discussion about what is God of War. They were saying that, Kratos is not God of War, Greek mythology is God of War, is what they argued at the studio. And so I guess that's a really good question to kind of jump off. Like, what is God of War? At least to me, right, God of War is more tied to Kratos, especially now as opposed to Greek mythology. Now, of course, that is, being, of course, reinstated with the fact that we've gotten God of War 2018 and it did start Kratos, where we have a brand new mythology to, explore and be in as Kratos. So that is more kind of supported with that notion, because we have a game now that has had Kratos not in Greek mythology. But that is a very interesting topic that we've loved to see more in depth on, and kind of see those conversations in the studio, as in, what is God of War? Is it Greek mythology or is it Kratos? And also Barlog continues and talks about how Kratos wasn't the only person that was going to be cut from this game, or you didn't have a 100% shot at being in this game. The other one is, of course, Reyes. Now, this has been talked about a lot, but this is kind of more detailed in a way. And so Barlog talks about how Reyes was also going to be cut from the game, but he says it was mostly due to the budget. But thankfully, they said that they were able to find means and ways to keep him in the game and keep him, most importantly, a valuable asset in the game, because we've seen in a ton of games where we have another character that's an NPC that's being controlled not by ourselves primarily, but you know, it's kind of just with us like a sidekick. We have seen those instances where it could be a little bit confusing and kind of annoying, honestly. You know, we've had plenty of examples in gaming where we have just a side character that really just gets in the way or is really annoying to play and stuff like that. So it was really cool how they were able to find a way to just have Atreus be a supplement to Kratos and be very much more of an aided character and can go out and actually be useful in the world as opposed to be an annoyance, you know, in the world, and be an annoyance to the player as well as Kratos himself. And so it was really cool to see that you know, they were able to find a way to not cut him, because I think it's talked about a lot in a bunch of videos where you know, Barlock has talked about how Atreus in the beginning was very much going to be someone that I think we would have been to like switch controls with like, I'm not 100% sure, I really forgot, but I think there was a version of the game where you were going to be able to be in complete 100% control of Atreus as well, and you know, and be able to switch back and forth from Kratos to Atreus. But I do like now how we have in the final game where Atreus is pretty much controlled by the square button, and you are able to shoot different types of arrows and switch those arrows and be able to be utilized in that way as opposed to fully control him like you would Kratos. And at least at the end of the article, they do discuss this notion of why they think it was a good thing to go with Kratos, and I really do agree with that. That's what I would have said. They really just took the, you know, kind of words I was thinking and put it on the article, which of course they didn't ask me, but you know what I'm saying, like I definitely share the same opinion. And so that opinion is that, like, you know, while it would have been cool, I think, to have a new and just original protagonist for this new game that they were making and have it be separate from God of War, it means a lot more you know, to have God of War be with Kratos and, you know, be the main protagonist in 2018, because I feel like you would be lacking the depth and lacking the kind of development that we see with Kratos, because Kratos back in the day, Kratos 1, 2, and 3 Ascension and the PSP games, is a vastly different character than what we see now in 2018. Like, it is definitely you know, much more of a yin yang, well, not more of a yin yang, but we see a drastic development in Kratos in 2018. He's a lot more mature, and rather than, you know, having the rage and anger control Kratos, he is very much more in control of his rage and anger, and definitely uses it to his, you know, advantage. And not so much that he uses the anger in a format of violence. We see a lot of times in God of War 2018 where he uses his anger in different ways, and so he will, you know, be angry and then will kind of suppress it and say words that will have impact on Atreus, right, and teach him something and be more vocal about it and have it serve as a means of teaching Atreus as opposed to using it in a angry way or outlash. I'm not saying that like he would hit Atreus, but like, you know, it's just I feel like in God of War 2018 is very much crystal clear that Kratos uses his anger a lot more to his advantage in like more specific ways that end up being beneficial to him, as opposed to what he would have in the past games where he would just completely just go on a tear and just be full of rage and stuff like that. And it's not that God of War 2018 lacks that rage. Like, definitely when Kratos sees a, you know, viable option or a way to utilize that violence rage, he definitely does in the game. Don't get me wrong, we've all played the game, we all know what's happening in God of War 2018, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like you know, within God of War, you know, within Kratos in this 2018 game, I feel like his rage and anger are more of a fuel as opposed to a format that he, you know, unleashes his output on. Like, I feel like he's a lot more methodical, a lot more smarter, and that is all due to the development that we've seen, well, not seen firsthand, but we are told in God of War 2018, where he finds Faye and lives a life with her and lives life with Atreus too, and then Faye's death. There's a lot of character development within Kratos that I feel like obviously would have been missing if we didn't have Kratos in God of War 2018. And plus, we wouldn't have gotten my favorite scene of the entire game, which is at the end, where he unleashes his wrappings from the chains that bounded him and says, "I have nothing left to hide." That to me is just like such a good moment. And of course, with him going back and getting that weapon that I still won't spoil on videos just in case you haven't seen it, but you know, that scene, you all know what I'm talking about if you played it. But there just would have been so many moments that would not have been there without Kratos. And that's why I think that it's you know, at the end of the day, it was a very good choice to have Kratos, of course, in God of War 2018. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What are you guys thinking? Did you guys like Kratos in it? comment, would you have wanted to see a new character? If you were to make a new character, tell me about him. Like, what would he have been, or she? What would that new protagonist have been in that new God of War 2018? Maybe put a title on it if you want. Let me know all your ideas down below in the comments. Also, while you are down there, make sure to check out our description. We find our Twitter and Discord down below. Make sure to follow us on those. Also, you can find our Anchor link down below, where you can find our different links to our podcast feed that are on a multitude of different podcast services, where you can go there and listen to our long form content. Those are mainly going to be Cross Circle podcast episodes, as well as Road to Part 2 episodes. So make sure to go check out those podcast services if you want to consume our content in a more audio format way. And thank you for watching, and make sure to leave a like if you've enjoyed that, as well as hit subscribe to PlayStation Source to keep up with the latest and greatest in PlayStation. Thank you for watching, and as always, greatness awaits.